Welcome to Shine Together, a podcast where Edmonton's brightest minds come together to share ideas, collaborate, and inspire. What makes a city great is its people, and this podcast is all about bringing them together. So let's dive into meaningful conversations and make our city shine brighter together.
I'm Dr. Omar Mohammad, and I'm running for mayor in the next municipal election here in Edmonton, Alberta. Welcome to Shine Together, an Edmonton podcast where one expert Edmontonian takes the host chair, and the other expert Edmontonian takes the guest chair. And I get the honor, privilege of witnessing, listening, learning, and growing beside each of you. Our guest today is James Simon, a high-performance coach, speaker, and expert in helping people and teams unlock their potential through mindfulness and continuous improvement. He's got over 20 years of experience in athletics, business, and healthcare, leading real change from the University of Alberta Hospital to organizations around the world. James is a founder of Headwaters to Change high-performance coaching, and he's learned from some of the best, like leaders at Toyota and his friend and mentor, George Mumford, the legendary performance coach who worked with Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and even the Edmonton Oilers during their last playoff run. James is all about helping people stay present, face challenges with calm, and move through life and work with purpose. And now, he's just released his debut book, Headwaters to Change. It's a must-read for anyone looking to sharpen their focus, build resilience, and grow in a meaningful, lasting way. It's my privilege to welcome to the show, James Simon. Welcome to the show, James.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here, my friend.
Yeah, very good. Great. And our host today is Dr. Michael Vargo, an anesthesiologist based at the Royal Alexandra Hospital here in Edmonton. Originally from Saskatoon, he completed medical school in his hometown before going on to Dalhousie University for his residency. He then pursued a fellowship in general anesthesia with a focus on acute pain at Fiona Stanley Fremantle Hospital in Perth, Australia. In addition to his clinical work, Dr. Vargo serves as co-director of patient blood management in the Edmonton zone and contributes to several quality improvement committees at the Royal Alex Hospital. Beyond the hospital, Dr. Vargo is deeply committed to global health. He volunteers with the Canadian Anesthesiologist Society International Education Foundation, helping train and mentor anesthesia providers in Rwanda, a cause close to his heart and a powerful example of healthcare capacity building in action. Thank you very much for being here today, gentlemen. I hope we shine brighter together. Dr. Vargo, the show is all yours.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here as well. Happy to be on the pod. So we're here to celebrate James's book that he's released about a week ago, James?
Yeah. It feels like yesterday, but yeah, a couple of weeks, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks so much, mate. Yeah, appreciate it.
Should we start just by maybe giving the viewers a synopsis of the book?
Yeah, sure. So Headwaters to Change really it's a manifestation of my approach to change in itself. So the concept of headwaters is that the headwater of a river is the starting point. It's the purest point where all the elemental components of a river come together, and it just forms often just from a small stream or from a glacier, but it begins there, and from that point it grows and it makes its way and grows on its pathway to the ocean. And so the metaphor behind that I think is really impactful, and it really came together. I was out on a hike with my family up in Banff, and we were at the headwaters of the Bow River, and it just really came together of how, this is a starting point. This is what change is all about. And if we really have a great, pure understanding of what that beginning looks like, the opportunity for growth is endless. But it's also not perfect. A river isn't just a straight line to the ocean and that's it, right? It goes through obstacles and it faces challenges, but it never stops flowing. It keeps going and it keeps overcoming those elements. And so using that as a metaphor for how we go about change and supporting that. I've had the privilege to be in this profession for a long time now, and learn from, as you said, from the best, and not go about things with just trying to reinvent things, but actually just learn and stand on the shoulder of giants and really grow in the pursuit of understanding what change is really about.
Right on. No, I really like the title. I think the title was very befitting for this book. It was a very nice read. Headwaters to Change, and I particularly liked the use of water in it, and Bruce Lee. And as we drink water here, like be like the cup.
Really?
Was one of my favorite parts of the book, and about headwaters to change, almost like taking a path throughout life, and almost like being on a journey. I really enjoyed that part of the book.
Yeah, I mean, it's like nothing is just straightforward, right? Life is not just about things just naturally occurring in a nice, peaceful element, way. Like we have struggle. We go through a lot, and so learning to understand how we navigate that journey is really important. And I think Bruce Lee uses the metaphor of water being like water, like it takes the shape, the form of the containers that it's in, but it never stops growing, and it changes. I mean, it's just such an impactful way to look at how we go about things, and it's real. It's real, and I think what I really try to emphasize through this book is that it doesn't have to be complicated. It's not easy, but we don't have to make it overly complicated. And I think that there's a system of how we go about change, and so taking that approach to life is just really impactful. Understanding your purpose, taking that time to really want to explore, have that curiosity about where is it we were trying to go, and not getting stuck up on that, but then having the direction of understanding what mindset gets us there, and that it's not a practice that comes just a natural. Like it's something we have to take time and put effort into. And then when we do come up against those obstacles, how do we work through those change? How do we tackle those problems? And that's the element of the Japanese concept of Kaizen. And then the understanding of those are all great. Sounds really wonderful, but we have to embrace those processes every single day, and the commitment and the dedication to wanting to keep going forward, especially when times are tough.
Right on.
James, I love the book. It's about personal change, like you're speaking about now, but it's also about organizational change, isn't it? And so it takes the lens of, there's at times you're discussing organizations and at times personal change. So it's really merging those two things together with one concept of change. Can you speak to that a bit? Maybe the organizational side a bit more?
Yeah, this again sort of is part of the foundation of my understanding of improvement from that organizational perspective. I had the honor of being able to learn so many of these concepts, particularly from a gentleman named Ken Kriefel, who is a general manager within Toyota in Kentucky, and the understanding of, again, looking at the system approach, what we're trying to achieve. Organizations taking that time to really understand what is their true north, like what is their direction, what are we trying to actually achieve, and when we can lock into that and understand what that purpose really is, then it gives us the ability to clearly communicate that direction, understand where we're going, and cultivate that awareness as a team. And then when we work through struggles, having the ability to systematically solve problems together as a team and come together with the mindset of getting a little bit better every single day. And again, that's the concept of Kaizen, continuous improvement.
Right, getting better every single day, kind of working towards a common goal.
Yeah.
So in the theme of me running for mayor, common goals, like things like, that would benefit everyone, like increased security, clean drinking water, not potholes in roads, that sort of thing. Yet, as a city, as a municipality, we find our leaders investing in capital projects that might not actually benefit absolutely everyone. So, in terms of continuous improvement, even though those do improve, society or improve your city, do you feel like a shared common goal is something that a leader should, in any organization should be something that we should focus on? That way you get more inspiration and everybody working towards that? Or do you feel that leaders should be making more like kind of decisions that they feel are best for other people?
Yeah, I mean, I think naturally having that shared common goal gives us something that we can strive towards together. It creates the ability to allow people to understand what it is we're trying to achieve. What are we working towards? What is my individual accountability to helping towards that? It's not about, it's not a leader that does it all. It's a leader that inspires and empowers people to be a part of the change itself. And I think that's a really important piece to remember. It's not about the individual. It's about creating that collective understanding through that understanding of the goal. But you can't just have a goal without understanding your purpose. Like, what is it you're actually trying to achieve? Because you can have a goal, but if it's not aligned to the right purpose, then you're going down a path that isn't going to get you where you need to go. You can put all the effort you want into something, and you can get that result. But if it's not aligned to where you're going, the effort is not going to be, it's not going to get the impact that you want. So it's so important to have that. But you do have to understand that direction and the importance of right effort. This is something that George Mumford really instills through his approach, is understanding the concept of right effort. It's something that allows you to understand, again, like, you can have someone with bad intentions do something really well with intent and succeed. That effort could be really poor. Someone could be really inspired to rob a bank, and they can achieve that. That's not exactly the right effort.
Right.
So putting your effort towards something that is going to bring good into the world, and that achieves that result, I think is so important.
Very good. Very good.
Right. And James, you also talk about how to solve problems as well, right? So you have that true north, like you're speaking of, but then when you've decided on these goals, the next step is how to solve them, right? And you go into your problem solving method in the book.
Yeah. It's, again, like, so important. I think so we can have that purpose, and we can have those goals, and we know what we're moving towards. Great. You're going to come up against problems, and how do we collectively come together? That approach, that systematic approach, that's one of the key things that I think was the sort of driving force and the energy behind what Toyota was able to do within their Toyota production system, is understand collectively a systematic approach to solving problems. So they utilize an approach that was brought over from North America after World War II by William Edwards Deming, called the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle. Some people call it Study, Act, but it's a systematic way in which you approach solving problems. And it almost forms like a checklist in your mind, so that you don't just jump into solutions. It allows you to set the intention at the beginning, understand, like, what is it we're trying to achieve here? What is the gap? Understanding, do we have data and facts to support that we have a problem? Because sometimes we jump into things and we actually don't know if it's a problem or not. And I think that sort of comes back to what you're talking about, Omar. It's like, how do we move forward with a goal? Like, if you don't know what the initial problem is, what is it you're trying to solve? And so understanding that and having that initial element in there is so crucial. That allows teams to collectively say, okay, or we have a problem. Like, there's something that says we have a gap. Once you do that, then you can come together and you can analyze it, break that problem down, try to pinpoint a specific area that you're going to focus on first. And I think that's really important, because we get so consumed with maybe wanting to solve that big overarching issue, and that can be really daunting and takes a lot of effort to get there, and can bring fatigue into it. So if you can, as a group, isolate a small element of that, make that really well understood, like, this is the target of change, and then come together, understand what is the actual root cause of it, what's truly doing that. And if you can spend your time in that sort of beginning area, 80% of your time should be there. If you know what that root cause is, the solution, it almost naturally comes together. You get the right people together. I mean, you don't have to, again, if you're a leader or facilitator of working through some of these problems, your job isn't to solve the problem.
Right.
Your job is to allow people the ability to see clearly where the opportunity lies and that you've isolated that root cause, and then put some plans in place and then follow that cycle and see, did we make an impact based upon the data that you received at the beginning? Were you able to make a change towards that? And sometimes it's small, sometimes it's not this big grand piece, but you fix the problem and you allow it not to come back.
Right.
Through implementing the standards. So we say, now that we've achieved this is a new way we're doing it.
Yeah.
Collectively share that and have everyone understand what that is, and then follow it until you need to fix it again.
Right. So it's like almost, you always got to be in the moment, right? And always like kind of being present, because you can always move forward from the moment no matter what. You can't really change the past, but you can only, work from what you have given and do what you need.
Yeah.
But you'll find a lot of politicians, there's that old adage, like, say what you mean and do what you say, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And, you'll find that a lot of people don't trust politicians nowadays, for a whole bunch of reasons, right? And it takes a lot of courage, I think, just to actually do that. Like, say what you mean and do what you say. Yeah. And, that's something that I, really focusing on, something that I want to do, running for mayor. But you did mention something to me in one of our coffees, and it kind of hit home. Is like, a path traveled as a group is a lot easier than traveling alone. And I don't know if I'm saying it completely right, but it kind of resonated a bit with me, because it is a team effort. Anything that I've done in life or achieved any goals, it's always been myself, by surrounding myself with people that are better than me and working together with them. I mean, can you comment a little bit about that? The book resonates with that theme with me, about group mentalities and working towards common goals.
Yeah.
And I feel like anything that I've achieved that, I broke barriers for, right? Yeah. It was always done as a group and a group effort to some level. I mean, can you comment a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, we're not in this alone. We're not in this alone. But I do, I almost want to take like a step back with that, though, because so there was a point when I was writing this book and I was sitting down and I was just I kept looking at the word improvement. And I don't know why sometimes when you see things a million times, you don't really pay attention to it. But like in this particular moment, I noticed the most obvious thing, the improvement started with I. And I was sitting there at the table and I just like had this moment. I stood up and I even said to my wife, Kylie, like, improvement starts with I. And I think she was looking at me kind of like, what are you talking about, of course? I'm like, no, like it's telling us improvement starts with I. It starts with the self and understanding what it is that we can do within. And so I think when we take that moment to really understand that and go inward around understanding what it is that we can do within ourselves, creating that mindset, like actually having that ability to be present. You can't just be present. Like our minds naturally are firing on a million different things.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think one of the beautiful things about doing this pod right now is that we're fully present with each other.
Yes.
Like this is it, right? This is the moment that we're in right now. This is the only moment that we're actually alive right now.
Yeah.
And to be fully present in this is a gift.
Yeah.
This is a gift. And when you sort of take the time and create the ability to have that awareness, that's magic.
Yeah.
Right. So when you can do that, I think bringing that mindset into that group setting now has more impact, because the point of going inward first allows you to show up for others. And I think that's sometimes what we miss. We kind of, as a society, sometimes put negative on being selfish. But again, I'm going back to something that George says to me often. He says it to many people, but sometimes you have to be selfish to be selfless.
Yeah. So, whenever anybody brings up something along like that, I always remember, the instructions on an airplane when they say put on your oxygen mask first.
Yeah.
And then you think about, well, no, that's, obviously help others first. But then if you think about it, if I pass out, how am I going to help others, right? So I always bring up that analogy. I don't know why that one pops in my head.
It totally does.
Yeah. No, I think, and you say it in your book too, right? I mean, I think that's how the segue into mindfulness is that exactly what you guys are saying, that you have to start with yourself, improve yourself first, and then you move on to improving your organization or problems you see in life. I mean, I think one of the beautiful things about this book is like there's problems and improvement in all facets of life, right? And so it starts with yourself, but then you can apply some of the things you talk about in your methodology to problems at home, problems at work, problems, for the city, like Omar is saying, and with politics and in the greater world. And so it's really, I mean, the book sort of transcends one specific area of life. And so I love that it's sort of, the mindfulness is about improving yourself. There's discussion about methodology, for organizations. And then there's, sports teams you get into. And like Omar was saying in the introduction with the Oilers and other sports teams have used this methodology to improve their performance. And so it's all about high performance teams at that level. Yeah. Right. So I want to ask a whole bunch of questions about some of the people you mentioned in these books, James. Like I want so much more, backstory. We probably don't have enough time to cover all of that, but maybe start with George Mumford that wrote the foreword here. How did you get connected with him?
Yeah, that was talk about like putting intention out there in the world and just having that sort of manifesting something to happen. So I have been involved in sports for a long time. Started out, young age playing soccer growing up in England. When I moved, actually played hockey in England as well. But moving to Canada, that was obviously something that's pretty big. And then I transitioned into boxing.
Boxing, there you go. I was looking for that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge part of my life. But I have two amazing boys, and they both really enjoyed basketball. So I embraced that, and I started coaching their teams, and I really got into the love and the passion behind basketball. There was a lot of synergy with the basketball culture and boxing, so I just naturally gravitated towards that, and I really got into the characters behind the game. And so I'm a really big fan of the late Kobe Bryant, and what he stood for in his performance mindset. And so like everything I do, and I mentioned this in the book, that once I start finding out something, I want to know about where that mindset came from. How did that begin? And so I started to do some research, and I was reading Phil Jackson's book, 11 Rings. And I saw George's name in there. I'm like, okay, who's George Mumford? And so I started doing some research and looking it up, and gravitated toward his book called Mindful Athlete. It's a phenomenal book. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. And I was like, okay, like I want to work with George. I want to meet this man. And so I reached out. He has a Mindful Athlete course. So I started taking that course. This was just after COVID that I started doing this. I'd been in the practice of meditation since just after 2014. And so this was a way I was like, okay, I'm going to go deeper into this. I want to get that mindset that Kobe had, that Michael Jordan had, and I wanted to understand what that was. And so I was taking this course, and then there was an opportunity that came up where I was able to go down to Boston, and I had the great opportunity to meet George. And it was just like one of those moments where it's like, this is it. Like I manifested this moment getting to meet, and I just had such a connection. And he's just truly an amazing person, and just he is everything that you would think, and more. Just a truly humble, kind, and wise person. And we'd been from that point, connecting back and forth, and then wildly, I get a message that George is going to be coming to Edmonton. And I'm like, "You're coming to Edmonton?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm going to be doing some work with the Oilers." And you think about the likelihood of this happening. I'm up here in Edmonton, George is down in Boston, and now he's going to be coming to my hometown to be working with with the Oilers.
And he wrote the foreword of your book,
And
which
he
tells
wrote the
you
foreword
that
in the
you know
book.
you're probably buddies, and you know to the level of him writing the foreword of your book tells me something. That's George Mumford.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I don't believe in coincidences personally. So the fact that you hear things about manifestation and putting things out there,
Yeah.
we're powerful beings.
Yeah.
If you want to do something, you want to evoke change, you want to do something. Don't assume you can't. I mean, you're hearing a story like that. We want to believe it's a coincidence, but you put it out there. You wished for something. You kind of went for it,
Yeah.
and now you got them as a forward of your book, Headwaters to Change,
Yeah.
which is you can't make that stuff up.
No, and I mean it is like I feel so fortunate. Like every time that I'm on the phone and we're having just a genuine conversation, connection, that ability to, or that knowing of who I'm speaking with and the impact that he's had in the world. I think as a city, I think we felt the energy that George brought to the team, like that last playoff run. That it was different. There was an energy, and we were talking mindfulness. I don't think I have seen the level of that was achieved as a team. I mean, that whole season was coming from like rags to almost a fairy tale ending, and but what was more just like so amazing from what I was looking at, again, having that connection and knowing George and seeing him doing the work and having everyone talking about mindfulness in the city. Like it happened, and being on being on TV talking about it. Like they pulled him into the conversation, and it became an energy. Like there was an energy in the city that I haven't felt in a long time, and that's the power that when somebody truly lives that message, and it is just impactful. That's the culture shift. We felt it here,
and
right?
you see that, right? And that's what, and you get the whole group behind it. You have a common goal, and you get that energy. Absolutely felt that, no doubt about that. And so cool that you're on the show and describing that, because I'm a big Edmonton Oilers fan. I actually went down to Miami for Game 7, and I feel we should have took it, but in my head we have. So
that's it. Yeah, but you know what? Like in amongst such a we didn't get. It wasn't the ending that we wanted to, but being able to get there, no one even thought we were going to make it.
Amazing.
So again, like that's the mindset, right? It's
Absolutely.
like, okay, we can live in like the, what if we could, but we got there, and the energy and the shift and the change in the conversation that we were having around sports was different.
Right.
It was different.
Absolutely.
I just wish we could keep that going.
Yeah. The journey was awesome. The time was awesome. And when it was shut off like a light switch, it was like that energy, like, I missed that. That's what we were missing, right? And it's very, very cool. Very, very cool to hear that perspective. Yeah, very good.
It's that Mamba mentality you mentioned that Kobe has, and it goes back to mindfulness. And what's important now was one thing I took away from this book. I hadn't heard that term before, and it sticks with me. And Omar and I have said different things about different phrases that have stuck with us from this book. Some, James, because we've known each other for a few years now, I was familiar with some already, and so. But even to this day, I find myself saying some of these phrases that have come out in the book. Like I'm saying Japanese phrases I've never would have known without meeting you, and relating to improvement. And Kaizen is one of them, right? Kaizen. Yeah. Without a standard, there can be no Kaizen. Yeah. And what's important now is going to be the next one for me. Omar, was there something else you took away from that?
One thing that really hit home to me is I like to get into the present, and like getting into present so that you can actually assess situations and kind of go from there from improvement. So I never heard the word Kaizen, even though one of my best friends, Taro-kun, he's Japanese, moved to Japan to teach English, has never come back 20 years ago. So Japanese in particular has a special thing for me growing up. But one thing that I really took, getting into the present, and I do it generally through breathing and, exercises, which you don't always do, but we always walk, and I do a lot of walking. And one thing that hit me from this book is, just the fact that thinking about how your foot, I know it's so simple, but how your foot hits the ground and just feeling that for a moment, it kind of like just snaps you right back into the present. Like our day to day, we're really busy. I see a lot of patients and see a lot of people. I got to go get groceries, and there's a whole bunch of things on your mind thinking about the future. But when you can just snap yourself into the present, you become a more of an effective, during that day. Yeah. So that's one thing that I really took. And one thing that also in this book, and I put a little pink sticky note. I'm not a big sticky note guy, but this one hit me, and I'll read it out here. And it's the heading is here, Awakening Change. Okay. And right away, it starts with a compelling sense of urgency must motivate us beyond our everyday routines and into action for genuine change to occur. And I feel like this is my life currently. Right now I'm running for mayor, and I'm a pediatric dentist. I have a full-time job, and my schedule is like full. I'm a ring announcer, auctioneer. I do a lot of things, and now I'm running for mayor. I felt the sense of urgency for change. It's way beyond my everyday routine, and it says the next, while this urgency may initially provide anxiety and stress, which it kind of did. I was like, I felt this pull, to do something. In some, re-own leadership, right, and change expert John Cotter suggests that it serves as a necessary counter to complacency.
Yeah.
That one hit me, and out of this book, hit me so hard. And believe it or not, right before the show, I was looking for it. I opened it. It went right to the page.
There
so
you go.
those are the
man.
two things that really hit me in the book. There's many, many gems in here. I want to read this book again. It's one of those ones. But that one really hit me. Can you comment about, a little bit about this compelling sense of urgency that happened? Because I definitely did feel that. And nobody wants to feel anxiety. Nobody wants to feel stress. But it did guide me towards doing something. And now I feel calm, and I feel like I'm following my purpose, if that makes any sense.
It makes total sense. Like for true change to happen, we need to have that sense of urgency. And I think sometimes we can shy away from that. I mean, look, we're in a time period now where there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of uncertainty that's going on. And so that feeling can be really uncomfortable. But in amongst that anxiety and that sort of unknown that we're in right now, there is that urgency. Like how do we take this and use it to be the catalyst for change? And I think that it's again, without going inward and really doing the work to be able to be with that anxiety and that suffering, it turns into something that can be negative.
Right.
And I can't emphasize enough the importance of doing the work and being okay with not being okay. And I think especially from the perspective of a male who we often can take I need to be tough and grind through this, and we need to normalize this conversation that it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
We need that sense of urgency to be able to drive forward. And in amongst that, when you struggle, it's okay to feel that it's not perfect right now.
I like that because, again, back into politics, accountability is a real big one. Yeah. Nobody's perfect. I mean, we're human, as, working in healthcare, you do something wrong, you say sorry, you fix it. You don't hear a lot of that, amongst politicians. You don't hear a lot of sorries for the mistakes that are made. So getting into the present and only improving from where you are, as opposed to trying to cover things up and not allow it to be news. I feel that, you get that sense of urgency, you get that sense of, you got to make things right. And in order to do that, you got to get in the present and use the process of Kaizen. And hopefully I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And continual improvement with the group common goals. Like this book, to me, reading this, it came out, it's very profound to me. In currently right now. So like I said, I'm reading this again, and I really love to hear that perspective. Amazing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate hearing that. I mean, it is just, again, I can't, I hope people listening really take that in, that it's okay that right now we have that sense of sort of anxiety around what is and what could be and where we're going, but within that we have the opportunity to pause. And I think that the statement that Viktor Frankl had made of it's what we can do between the stimulus and the response. It's the calm between that stimulus and response that gives us the power to move forward. And George utilizes this in his approach, the eye of the hurricane.
Eye of the hurricane. I love
that.
There
is a storm going on around us. And our mindset of being able to move into that eye, that beautiful spot in the middle where there's a place of stillness, it doesn't mean that things around you are perfect. It means that we have taken the opportunity and the time to go inward, be in that space between that stimulus and response, where we have the power to respond to the situation, not react, respond. And that is a magical place to be. But that's the point of being able to do presence. So your comment about walking, again, yeah, we do it all the time, but we do it and we don't even think about it.
Don't think about it.
Never think about it. So if you can take those moments and create that, there's a late Zen monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, who would talk about the bell of mindfulness, something that happens that sort of brings you back into that state, right? Like that chime, that ding, that sort of brings you back to that present moment.
Yeah, just like you watch on show, somebody just slaps your face.
That's
you know
it,
what I mean?
and
But,
it brings you
right
straight back into
moment,
it, right? I'm here, I'm now, but it can be that. It can be that moment of the breath, just bringing your attention back to your breath, or the foot touching the ground. We don't need to make this complicated.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things I really try to emphasize is that I think the state of going inward and doing like meditation, I think sometimes can have like the sort of stigma around it that you need to go on this retreat for like months and sit in this perfect state of Zen to be able to do that. And that's not reality.
Right.
You know, that's practice. You can't live in that practice all the time.
Right.
We have to be able to be in the moment for the reason that we're existing, and that's to live.
Right.
So we have to create the ability to do that, and it can be very simple. So looking for those moments, those times. I mean, like Mike in the operating room, I'm sure there's numerous times that you have to be brought back into that moment when critical things happen and you snap in, right?
Yeah, and maybe it's more about being in that flow state that you talk about in the book, right? Like you want to, at work in these high performance teams, like Omar and I have worked together in a high performance team as well, I would say, right? So it's more about being in that flow state where time is passing and you feel like things are easy, and when you look up, 2 hours has passed or something like that. And so, I mean, that's really where you want to be at in that case, I would say.
Yeah.
Because, in mindfulness, you talk about how it's not clearing your mind fully and having no thoughts enter your mind. It's more about sort of shutting off the external stimuli and letting your internal thoughts come to the surface, right?
100%.
So, I don't know. I resonate maybe more with that flow state, and like Omar is saying, with the foot strike on the ground, it brings you back into this mindfulness. I mean, are they the same thing, flow state and mindfulness, would you say? Or are they two separate?
I'm sure there's like a million debates around. Or I don't. You can't have one without the other, right? Like you have to have the understanding of like creating. Like there's elements that you need to be in that flow state. Like one of them is curiosity. Like you need to have the curiosity to start going into something, but you have to be able to, quiet the noise around you so that you can put that attention in and that focus so that you can get there. And it's one of those things that I think unless you can cultivate your awareness, you don't actually even know you've been in it. Like you said, like time stops. It's a moment in time where like it just goes out, but knowing that you're in that state and like taking that time to sort of like afterwards like reflect on that, because the ultimate game here is like we want to live in that flow state.
Yeah.
Like in what we do, like cultivating high performance teams, but in life too, like bring it back to like whether you have a family or you're being around your friends, like you can be in that state within that setting, and we've all done it.
Yeah.
Like where you sit there and with like right now, like time is not even in the picture here.
Yeah, totally. When you become present and into that flow state, I find it's funny you mentioned that because the anesthesiologist, I find I'll be working away doing my thing, and then all of a sudden they'll be adjusting something, they pick up on something, and they were totally reading a newspaper or something like that, and it's just natural. I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't even hear that. You guys get totally into flow states. Dentists do the same thing. We can drill. I can have a conversation. First time I ever did that though, right? I'll tell you, and maybe Dr. Vargo, you can comment on that. There's that learning curve. That little bit of effort or that little bit of stress or a little bit where you really have to be mindful in order to get there to begin with, where when you're in your residency and you're training and you're paying attention to every detail and learning all the what things mean, Same, like my first dental filling took me 3 hours. It was on a canine. Like, poor guy, I had to freeze him twice. Like, the freezing ran out. Now I can do that same filling that I did the first time, probably in about 20 seconds while I'm thinking about what I'm having for dinner, You get into that flow state after, they say that 10,000 shots or that 10,000 hours, time being a factor. But it's not just the time, it's actually the mindfulness and being present and knowing what you're doing and why you're doing it and your purpose, right?
Yeah.
There's this book, like, even though it feels light and a light read, there's so much in this book. It's insane. We could talk to you for hours about this.
Well, I wanted to create that curiosity, right? So you're not going to have all the answers in there, but hopefully it creates that sense of curiosity in you to go deeper, explore your own path, and understand where it is that you want to go, right? Don't follow the path completely of others, right? Understand what it was that people went through to get there and create your own journey, right? Like we're all unique.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of what we bring. And so don't lose that.
That's right.
Like we want to bring that, and in the pursuit that you're on of becoming Edmonton's mayor, that uniqueness within yourself that inspires the uniqueness of our city.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I feel. Like, I feel this drive to do it. It's out of my normal element for sure of like my day to day. But in that, people say, how are you going to achieve this? And I'm going to do it exactly how I got to where I am today. And that's, trying to stay humble, trying to serve others, and always surrounding myself with people that are better than me, because it's how you get into that eventual flow state, because somebody had to train us to in terms of our professions. We went through residency programs. We were around people that were better than us at some point, and now we can now pass that training on to others or lead in different ways. And it's kind of how I'm trying to do things, right? So it's getting into the present. This book gave me a really good tool in terms of I do a lot of walking, do a lot of hiking. And it's like now every time I step foot, certain people are certain things for me. James, every time I like take a step, which is a lot, and I think about that, you're going to be popping in my head when I'm mindful about my foot hitting the ground. So one of my friends is French toast, by the way. And one of my friends is actually shaving at when I clean the sink, believe it or not, but you get to be the foot guy.
There we go. That's awesome. No, it's, I love that. And you know what, like, I think that there's, you mentioned about surrounding yourself with people that sort of bring you up and elevate you. I mean, like, it's been, our friendship, like, we got to travel together to Rwanda, and I got to see, you living your purpose and being there for others and bringing, what you do, to such a amazing group of people. And like, what inspired you to sort of want to do that?
Oh, Rwanda, that's great to bring this up, James. I wanted to say a few things, but Rwanda, like, I went to Dalhousie University, and that's where the Canadian Anesthesia Society International Education Foundation in Rwanda was organized, and a lot of residents there made the trip to Rwanda with mentors. And so I did that at first in 2015, I believe, as a resident. And then when I came to Edmonton, I had this year I could use to do some extra training, and so I did that in Australia, but then followed with another trip to Rwanda but this time I took residents with me and tried to be a mentor to them. But then the next step, like being in Rwanda, so I mean, it was just a desire to go and try to have an experience globally and improve the program there. Like Omar mentioned, it's about capacity building with that. It's a continuous program that builds capacity through education. Mm-hmm. But when we went in 2018, a lot of the residents there, they're required to do a scholarly project, and being at CHUK in Kigali, their university hospital, there's a lot of things that can be improved. You've been there, you know what I'm talking about, and there's so many opportunities for the local residents to make their project something they can improve. That's a SMART goal, like you said, like it's achievable and it's relevant. The A and the R of SMART goals. So when I was there, people described to me their projects they wanted to do, and a lot of times they were things that were lab research or clinical science and not quality or improvement related. And I just thought it was crazy. There were so many opportunities. What they needed was to learn how to do quality improvement. And so then we met about a year before that, maybe,
Yeah.
when you graciously volunteered to help train our residents. And so then the next step was to ask you to come to Rwanda to teach the residents there how to perform their own improvement.
Yeah, that was, talk about life-changing. I mean, that was something that just humbling, just so humbling. Rwanda is a beautiful country with amazing people that went through a horrific time period, but to see their passion for change and growth and healing, like the love that you feel in that country from everyone that's around you. I mean, that it was so impactful.
And forgiveness, right? That's how they dealt with the genocide was with the grass courts and ultimately just this huge like sense of forgiving each other. And so
Yeah, something going through, something like impactful will kind of get you mindful as well. So maybe, that, snaps you into reality.
Yeah.
But one thing I like about both of you guys, right? And I've done international trips as well. And I this is what I always feel when, we say, oh, it's so nice to give. It's so nice to give. You get that kind of perception from others. But personally, I always feel you get far more back personally than you ever give. And it's like a rule I wish everybody could understand. It's like something that's so true to me. Would you guys say the same and going to a trip like Rwanda, it changed yourself positively?
I agree with you 100%. I mean, I think people, they don't reconcile that. They don't come to terms with that you're getting more than maybe you're giving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something when you come home from an international trip that you kind of struggle with, right? You have to reflect on and then decide, like, if I am getting more, is it truly an altruistic experience or is it for myself?
Right.
And I struggle with that every time.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing. A lot of people I've talked with when going on trips, they get the post-trip blues.
Mm-hmm.
They feel sad that something's missing because you get so much. I find, what I think it is you get so much fulfillment when you get back and you're present in that moment. It makes you feel good about yourself, right? In so many different ways. Or it's hard to explain into words. But when you get back into your regular rigmarole and stuff like that, something's missing. And it's like this post-trip blues. I don't know how else to describe it. But
some people say a reverse culture shock. You get sort of this reverse culture shock. You come home and then you see how much we have and it makes you sort of like feel down that people don't appreciate what we have or aren't feeling, gratitude for everything that we do have in our lives maybe. So I've heard that, like the reverse culture shock aspect of it.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. Like, we had an opportunity when we were in Rwanda to go out and visit. There's a nonprofit group called Aspire, and the lady that runs it, her name's Peace, and like that was so impactful. Getting to see the work that they did there, supporting women and that had young children to grow in their careers. And I had the opportunity to connect with their teachers and their team, and we did a mindfulness session. I'll never forget it because it was just, again, a moment where we were able to be fully present with each other in this little just this little room with a tin roof. And as we were doing a meditation practice, the massive rain started and it started falling down, and it was so loud. And we used that as our anchor, as our footstep to sort of bring ourselves fully into that moment. And the stories that we shared and about moving through that forgiveness, we would do a whole podcast just on that and how we give back.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to truly create a space so that we could sort of have an understanding of not just giving or taking away that moment, but just being there together with each other, knowing that we're here for this common purpose, to be able to cultivate a mindset to move through some of those challenges that they experience in their day to day, and it was such a gift, and I do reflect on that about do we get more out of that than not, but I think in that moment, I had the fortune to be able to be fully present with beautiful people that are trying to make and move through change. And so I feel that we created that sort of shared experience where hopefully we did leave something behind that was able to make a lasting effort.
Yeah, and you never know what'll be the domino. I believe in dominoes. Like one little domino. But my life, I have a few dominoes in my life that if they weren't there, those canon moments, as you'll say, or those people that were influential. And you don't know, like when you go and you help and you do something, whether you help an orphan kid or you help somebody get into the right mindset, and they proceed to take that forward. You don't really know all that domino effect that could be. And I've seen some dominoes in my life.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the energy you get from that. It's you evoke change by actually being mindful, being present, looking for a common goal, and maybe giving something towards that goal as a part of that group, and away you go. And I think that's what that exchange of energy you get, and that's what you get far back, because when you present something, you also get that energy back, and I think that's exactly what that is. And it's really hard to put into words, like I said, but I always like to get everybody's perspective, because it's something I hear from anybody who generally goes somewhere and gives back in that regard. Very
this
cool.
is a good time to segue to the concept of going to the Gemba.
Going to the Gamba,
Going to the Gemba.
Yeah.
Or Genshi Kembutsu.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh man, I like how that sounds.
That's another phrase that sticks in my head from your hearing you speak, James, and also from the book. But it's going to see, right? It's going to see for yourself what's happening.
Yeah.
And Omar, in your race to be the mayor here, like how often does the mayor go to see himself or herself? What are the issues, and get the boots on the ground?
Yeah.
That's one thing that I think about a lot. And so wherever the problem is, if it's elsewhere or here at home, going to see for yourself is one of those important concepts, I think.
And I believe that. And you need to go see what it is for yourself and serve, right? I believe
100%.
The job of the mayor is actually of service. It shouldn't be of politics, even though it's in the political arena. I don't believe it to be a stepping stone to something else. And I find, politicians use that job as, running in our city for stepping stones to something else. They run into MP, or they'll jump into MLA and stuff like that. I feel like the actual job towards service is actually what you're going to get that proper exchange of energy, work towards a group to actually improve the entire city. So, that's where I'm going with running for mayor here, and hearing people that have similar perspectives, in different respects. It's always, I always say, very rewarding and very fulfilling to hear stuff like that.
No, it's you have to do it. You have to do it, right? And getting your boots on and really going and seeing. I mean, it is like it's the only way you actually understand what's transitioning, and also to put in that check is what you're trying to achieve actually having the impact you anticipated.
That's right.
And the only way that you can do that is by actually going out and seeing, because people will tell you sometimes everything you want to hear, and data can be tricky sometimes because it can also tell you what you want to see. But going to the place where it's actually happening, that's the power of Genshi Kembutsu. It's going and seeing and really being there. It's magic.
Yeah, absolutely.
James, I don't know if this is just totally out of sequence, but if we rewind right to the start of how you got involved in improvement, back to the cabinetry and woodworking line at a manufacturing company. Yeah. Can you take us there and explain to us how your path set out like this?
I mean, I think it was it was one of those things that I just really connected with, working with my hands and creating and building and knowing that what I was contributing to, making, was going to be used by someone and appreciated by someone, and that craftsmanship and the passion behind that is set a foundation for me of really appreciating the process of putting something together with the intention that it's going to make an impact on someone. So that woodworking really set a really high expectation in my mind of setting kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
This is how you build something meaningful that lasts.
Interesting. Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
And we're almost out of time here, but for the viewers, like I'm not a big book reader myself. I'm going to get back into reading, but for many of the viewers, because I know I would like this. We've got the author here, the man who wrote Headwaters to Change. If you could give them some like little pearls in terms of how they could, anybody day to day, how could they just immediately get into mindfulness and get into the present for themselves? What would you say to our listeners?
Just begin. Is the first thing. I think we can overanalyze, we have to set up this perfect, way of being and doing. Just begin. Set your intention in the morning. Take a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And before you start that hustle and bustle of the day, just to set your mind in a place where you're able to just be in that moment, because that sets your ability to keep that throughout the day. And I think if you can do that
mm-hmm.
and keep it simple, then it sets your ability up to just be present.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be, walk and know that you're walking.
Mm-hmm.
Sit and actually know that you're sitting. Be in a conversation without having a phone in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
I think if anyone could have an opportunity to do something like this,
mm-hmm.
mock up a fake podcast at home and actually do this and be present with each other. We've been in flow the whole time. I couldn't tell you how much time has passed.
Yeah.
I'm just enjoying this moment.
Yeah.
So look for that. Look for that and just begin. Don't set up with these, this grand I'm going to sit for 10 hours in this day and do it. No, just give yourself a minute before you start the day and begin.
I love it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Vargo, James, it's been a pleasure. That's all the time we have for the show. To our listeners, Headwaters to Change. You can get it on Amazon, I believe. That's where I got mine.
Amazon, Indigo Online, yeah.
And the website, headwaterstochange.com, is it?
That's it, yeah.
I will include that at the end of the episode. But thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. That's all the time we have. And it's time to shine, Edmonton. Let's shine brighter together. Thanks again, guys.
The time has
Appreciate you,
come.
Omar.
The time is now. It's time. It's time to shine. It's time to shine, Edmonton. Let's shine together. Let's all shine bright in all kinds of weather. Time to shine, Edmonton. Let's shine together. Let's all shine bright in all kinds of weather. What time to shine, Edmonton? Let's shine together.